Hello, and welcome to a micro-training video on Databricks Notebooks. Notebooks are a cell-based coding environment for writing, reading, and testing code. They are probably the most common place you will be writing code. We're going to create one in just a moment, but first we need to decide where we are going to create it. So I'm going to click Workspace on the left, and generally we have two options for where we are going to create a notebook. The first one is in your home workspace. So you'll click Home, and you'll see Workspace, Users, and then your login. Unless you've given somebody else explicit permission to view your notebook, any notebook that you create in here is accessible only by you. This is a great place to be writing code for private testing, generally something that nobody else will see. The other place you can create a notebook is in your org workspace. So you'll click Workspace, and your org will be listed here somewhere. Your org will look something like this. If you create a notebook in your org folder, you or anybody else who has access to your org are going to be able to see it. This is a great place to be writing code for your team, something that somebody else is going to be editing as well as you, or somebody is going to be reading or modifying as well as you. So for now, let's just create one in our home workspace. I'm going to click Create Notebook, and you'll get a blank notebook like this. The first thing we should do so we don't lose this is to title our notebook. You can click right up here in the tab, and I'll change this to Micro Training Demo Notebook. And I'll click into our first cell here. The first thing we need to do is attach a cluster. If you're unfamiliar with Databricks compute clusters, please see our other microtraining video on compute clusters. But I'm going to attach my cluster. The first time you spin up a cluster after it's been dormant, it might take a couple minutes for it to actually load. One thing that I like to do is I like to run a quick line of code in here and wait for it to execute. This will happen when your cluster has finished spinning up. So I just wrote a quick 1+1 in here, and I'm going to run it by hitting Shift Enter. And I did get a 2, which means that my notebook is up and running. Notebooks have a global language type. By default, this notebook was created as a Python notebook, but if you click this, you'll have 4 options: Python, SQL, Scala, and R. All right, so now that my notebook is up and running, a lot has happened behind the scenes. Spark has automatically configured itself in the background, so we don't need to do any Spark configuration on our own. If this is a Python notebook, PySpark has been automatically configured. If this is an R notebook, Spark R has been automatically configured. Now, Spark R is no longer the default Spark implementation in the language R, although Sparkly R has been pre-installed on the R clusters as well, so you won't need to worry about that either. Okay, so I have just run a code cell here with Shift Enter. Shift Enter ran this cell and moved my cursor one cell down. Another thing we can do is we can hit Control Enter. Control Enter will run the cell, but it will keep my cursor in the same cell. This is useful in case you know that you're going to need to go back up and modify this cell just in case. A third way to do this, and I'm going to click back up here, is by hitting Alt Enter, or if you're on a Mac, that'll be Option Enter. So Alt Enter will run the cell, create a new blank cell underneath it, and then move your cursor there. So I'm going to do that now with Alt Enter. Okay, so just to demonstrate that that worked, here we go. You can also manually create new cells by mousing over between and clicking plus code or plus text. What plus text will do is it'll make a new cell that is exactly the same as a blank cell, but with a %MD at the top. That is denoting that this is going to be a markdown cell. Markdown is a lightweight text editing mini language that'll allow you to write plain text notes between your cells. So, as an example, in Markdown, if I begin a line with a single pound sign, This will make a title, so a larger font. And I can continue writing some additional markdown. Uh, Hello, this is a markdown cell. If you surround text with underscores, that will make it italic. There is a lot you can do with Markdown. Feel free to research on your own. We are going to skip over some of the details on that now. Individually, you can actually change the language of cells by putting another macro at the top. So we already saw creating a Markdown cell with %md, but I can also create an R cell by putting %r at the top. This. So now you can see that I've run R code even though this is a Python notebook. The same will work for SQL as well. However, variables created in one language won't carry over to the notebook's other language. For example, now that I'm back in a Python cell here, if I try to print X, it'll say X is not defined because I defined it in an R cell and not a Python cell. Okay, that is the basics of Python notebooks. Finally, I want to mention that we do not need to save Databricks notebooks as we're working because they are auto-saving every time we do something. Okay, now you know the basics of working in Databricks notebooks. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.